Hello, friends. Happy Sunday. More importantly, happy Packers game day. Welcome into the Pack-A-Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you guys making Pack-A-Day part of your game day routine today. And yes, it is game day, but more importantly, it is Packers-Bears game day. The rivalry, and Minnesota Packers certainly up there as well. And Detroit right now, king of the North, but Packers Bears just has a little bit of that different feel to it. It really does. And I know that Bears have been little brother here for the last, 3 decades-ish for the most part, with a couple blips in the radar here and there. But for the most part, while Green Bay has still owned this and we've got the Aaron Rodgers, I own you and everything like that, it still feels like it's important. I think that's because, and especially even as of late, the fan base, right, from Chicago, the constant smack talk in the offseason with nothing to back it up ever. And yet they continue to do it. And I already tweeted out like last week, I'm like, I can't wait to see in 2025 offseason what brand new exciting adventure that the Bears fans are going to go on, where they're going to be talking smack every single offseason again for the foreseeable future. This is the year. This is going to be the one. And they'll win an offseason again and everyone will praise it and be like, oh my goodness, look how many guys they signed and everything like that. And then the Packers beat them, and we continue this trajectory over and over and over, which, by the way, I don't mind, certainly as a Packer fan. But just, I think, the fan bases and the history and the tradition and all of it, Packers-Bears just feels different. And one thing, before we even get into predictions, anything like that, one thing that you have to remember is when you get to these sort of games, to some extent, if you're looking for any sort of bad news for Green Bay, like, the records all sort of go out the window. You never quite know what you're going to get because you do have this rivalry and these teams don't like each other. And we've seen a little bit of smack talk through the course of the week. And you never quite know what you're going to get. So always beware of that. But this is still one that, we'll talk about for sure, that Green Bay should have every right to win. But I'm excited for it. I'm always excited for Packers Bears. We got 2 of them left on the final 8 games of the schedule. We basically bookend the remainder of the year, today's game, and then the final game of the regular season before, of course, Green Bay goes on their epic run in the playoffs and the Bears hit the offseason as soon as the regular season is done. Before we get into anything else, we're going to go over our Luigi's Pizza player to watch in this game. It is simple. It's obvious. It's clear. I don't care. Jordan Love. He's the guy to watch in this game. He's the guy to watch in this game. He's the guy to watch for the remainder of this second half of the season. At some point, regardless of how everything else goes, offense, defense, special teams, run game, at some point, you're going to go as far as your quarterback can take you. And if we're being totally transparent and totally honest, if Jordan Love continues to turn the ball over at the rate that he's been doing so far, there is a hard cap on what Green Bay can accomplish this season, and just with him as the starter. And that's not to say he's bad or he's a bust or that he shouldn't got the contract or anything like that, because mostly I don't think that that's who he's going to be, but there's a lot of time left still, all right? We don't have to jump to any conclusions at this point in time, but there is a ceiling if he continues to turn over the ball at the rate that he has. And while I don't expect that to be the case, I really don't expect that to be the case. I think he's going to turn that around in a fairly significant fashion in the second half of the year. Even without that, even like there's a level that you would like to see Jordan get to, just even the level where he was at in the second half of last season, where that's the quarterback that you feel like not only can get you into the playoffs, but can get you, to the Super Bowl and maybe even win a Super Bowl, right? And I'm not putting that burden or that expectation on Jordan solely. It is clearly a team sport, but your quarterback, 1A on that list of what ultimately kind of gets you to that promised land. And I think there is a gem of a quarterback that is still there for Jordan. I think he has the ability to achieve that. I think he can be one of the better, if not one of the best quarterbacks in this league. And now it's time to go show it. And it starts with Chicago. It's not the be all end all. We're not going to jump to any crazy conclusions regardless of what happens in this game. But the second half of this season is going to be super important for Jordan if Green Bay wants to get to where they want to go. So I want to see the Jordan that we know. I want to see the Jordan that we saw in the second half of last season. And I want to see him. I'm not talking about put the team on his back or anything like that. That's not what we want. We don't want forcing things. We don't want him to feel like he has to do too much. But just like anyone else needing to do their 111th, Jordan needs to do his part in that. And that means taking better care of the football, being a bit more accurate, hitting some of those big plays down the field, but playing within the structure of the offense. Now, to be crystal clear, a lot of what has happened in the first part of the season, injury related. I wholeheartedly believe that. So let's see if he can be healthy, and then let's see if he can go out and execute the offense, and then limit some of those turnovers. And if he can do that, which I very much think he can, then the sky's the limit for this Packers team. Because I think while everyone else needs to continue to grow and get better on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, and certainly on special teams, if Jordan is playing at that level, you've got a chance in every game. So my Luigi's Pizza player to watch in this one, and really for the second half of the season, is Jordan Love. I'm excited to watch him. I can't wait to watch him against Chicago. And of course, you can get your Luigi's frozen pizzas at your grocer in Wisconsin and in neighboring states. It is worth your time. Go extra. Go before the game. Have somebody DoorDash it to you if you need to. Whatever you need to do. Figure out a way to get a Luigi's frozen pizza. This is a true story, absolutely true story, on Saturday. I'm not a big bacon/Canadian bacon guy on pizza. I had their big meaty pizza that had the sausage, pepperoni, and then I think it was bacon and Canadian bacon, if I remember correctly. Could not stop eating it. I'm going to have a slice or two, and because we made it for the family. There was none left for them. I'm sorry, Elijah. I'm sorry, Xavier. You did not get the adequate amount of pizza that you should have. The pizza math was not pizza mathing because I ate almost all of it. So it was worth it, though. It was amazing. And yeah, I cannot recommend it enough. Whatever it is, their breakfast pizza, fantastic. Their thin crust, fantastic, or ultra thin crust. Their fresh dough, phenomenal. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, even the stuff that I would normally be like, I'm sorry, Luigi's, I'm still not going to try the black olive stuff. I'm just not going to do it. I can't bring myself to do it. But even stuff where I'm like, I'm not sure this is my cup of tea, it's still insane. It's still delicious. So go get it. It is worth it. I promise you. And while you can drag my food takes, every now and again, when it comes to pizza, that's where I'm the expert. And that is where I cannot, again, recommend enough for Luigi's Pizza. So go and make sure to check it out. All right, let's get to this game. Transactions, first of all, from Saturday. Robert Rochelle added to the active 53-man roster. Jordan Morgan placed on IR. Now, a couple things here. Green Bay had the open roster spot anyway, right? Because they did not activate Marshawn Lloyd off of IR and actually put him on the active roster yet. So they had the open spot. They decided to put Jordan Morgan on IR anyway, which lends me to believe they want to open up or at least start that 4-game clock with this game. Or it just means that like it was a foregone conclusion and he needed to be placed on it eventually anyway. But either way, Jordan Morgan goes on IR. Hopefully it means that they wanted to start that clock now and that they think he could be back in 4 or 5 weeks, or after the 4th week, I should say. So in like the 5th week, but we're going to have to wait and see with Jordan, and you obviously want to give him as much time as needed to recover because this is the 3rd time he's injured that same shoulder, but he will be out for at least 4 weeks, including this one. And then Robert Rochelle being activated is intriguing. The reason being is you had 5 corners, which is what they've gone with all season. That's not even including Javon Bullard, who has played in the slot, right? Jair Alexander, Keyshawn Nixon, Eric Stokes, Carrington Valentine, and Corey Ballantyne. You had 5. It's usually what they go with. Again, plus Javon Bullard if you want, that's 6. The question here is Jair Alexander, who is questionable for this game. I don't know that if he's good to go, that they really feel like they need Robert Rochelle. Now, I will say if you want signs of hope that Jair could still play, this is special teams is going to play a big role, in this game. And Robert Rochelle, a very good special teams player. So this could be, hey, we've got an open roster spot. Robert Rochelle is out of elevations anyway. Let's get him on the 53. Let's activate him for this game. We'll go with 6 corners. We can still deactivate enough people to get him active in this game. And he's going to be a core special teams guy and has really nothing to do with Jair. I don't think that's entirely infeasible. So I'm not willing to jump to the conclusion quite yet that Jair is not going to go in this game. But they did call up a corner. They didn't really need to, and Jair was questionable. He practiced all week in a limited capacity. Could Green Bay want to give him that one more week so he's ready to go against San Francisco next week? maybe, and I don't know that this would really play a factor, but maybe thinking that they can get out of Chicago with a win without Jair and saying, hey, let's get one more win here. Again, I don't think Green Bay is really thinking that way. I think if he's good to go from a medical standpoint, they play him. And I think if he's not good to go, they don't play him. But I'm interested. That's going to be the 1A thing to look at when inactives come out is Jair Alexander. No questions about it. The Bears did not make any transactions. Just going back to the injury report, I know we discussed it yesterday, so I'm not going to go into it in great detail here, but Jaquan Brisker, remember, moved to IR. Kieran Amagaji and Tevin Jenkins, their offensive linemen, are out. Tarvarius Moore is questionable at safety. Montez Sweat is questionable at defensive end. Good to go are Braxton Jones, Mercedes Lewis, Noah Sewell, Darrell Taylor, and Darnell Wright. For the Packers, Marshawn Lloyd is out. Jordan Morgan, of course, now placed on IR. Colby Wooden is doubtful. Evan Williams and Jair Alexander are questionable. Kingsley Nigbari, Kenny Clark, Josh Jacobs, Elton Jenkins, Jordan Love, Josh Myers, and Rasheed Walker, all good to go with no injury designation. So the big one, in my opinion, to keep an eye on, Montez Sweat for Chicago, and then Jair Alexander for Green Bay. I think those are the two really, really huge ones as you look at the inactives. My predictions for inactives, they only need to deactivate 4 players because they only have 52 guys on the roster. You only need to get to 48. So they're only going to have to sit down 4 guys. Colby Wooden seems very clear and obvious. Travis Glover seems very clear and obvious. I think Katano Ladapo with the rest of your DBs being good to go probably seems obvious. So those 3 I feel comfortable about. Colby Wooden, Travis Glover, Katano Ladapo. Then the other one is, to me, either Jair Alexander, if he can't go. I think it would be Malik Heath if Jair Alexander could go. So I think it's one of those 2. So is it Wooden, Glover, Oladapo, and Jair? Or is it Wooden, Glover, Oladapo, and Malik Heath? That's what I think Green Bay will be looking at when it comes to an inactive standpoint. But we will find out at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I've been pretty good at these predictions through the course of the season so far. Hopefully I get the Malik Heath one right and not the Jair Alexander one right. And Jair is able to go on this one, which will be a key to especially trying to shut down DJ Moore, who might be a little extra motivated after some back and forth with Xavier McKinney this week. All right, let's get to our keys to the game, and then we'll get into our predictions, and then we'll get out of here. Our keys to Packers-Bears. Number 1, and I think this probably can go without saying, is the Packers' defensive line versus Chicago's offensive line. To me, this is a potential get-right game for either side. If you are Chicago's offensive line, who gets back their starting offensive tackles in Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. Yes, Tevin Jenkins gone on the interior. They've got some depth pieces out. Kieran Amagaji is out. And then they cut Nate Davis through the course of the week. So it's not quite the same depth that they have, but their starting 2 tackles are out. If you're Chicago's offensive line that's given up 9 sacks last week and 18 sacks in the first 3 games, you're looking at Green Bay coming to town and be like, oh, thank God. Like, we really need to have a good game, and this Packers defensive line has not scared anyone all season long. This is exactly what the doctor ordered. And if you're the Packers defensive front, who hasn't had a game since the Tennessee Titans game, really, where they got, 8, 9 sacks? I think it was 9 sacks, 8 sacks, 9 sacks on Will Levis in Tennessee. If you're the Packers defensive front, you're thinking, oh my goodness, thank you. Exactly what we needed coming off the bye was the Chicago Bears in a line that's giving up 6 sacks per game over the last 3 games, 9 sacks last week. They seem to be getting worse. They're banged up. This is exactly what we wanted. Which one comes out on top? It is the the destructible force versus the movable object is basically what we're looking at here. These 2 sides have not been good, but the winner of this battle gives their team, I think, a significant leg up. If you're the Packers and that defensive front can get that 6, 7, 8, 9 sacks on Caleb Williams, it's just game over. I mean that sincerely. I mean, Green Bay would have to be so bad in every other phase because they're the better team. They're playing better football. Chicago's a nightmare. And if you're talking about 7, 8, 9 sacks on Caleb Williams again, it's just, that's not the game where Chicago can win in that situation. It also tells me that they had to pass a ton, which is not a good sign for Chicago. It's just game over. I don't think Chicago can survive in that condition, meaning Green Bay's getting a bunch of pressure and a bunch of sacks. I don't think that's any sort of avenue for success. Meanwhile, if Chicago wants signs of hope and an opportunity to win, go block up front those four guys for Green Bay with their front 4 and give yourself a puncher's chance with Caleb Williams. Let new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown have the opportunity to run what he wants to run and feel like he can call pass plays without there being this nuclear pressure up front, that's going to swing the game in a significant way. Now, likely it's somewhere in the middle, right? Green Bay gets 4, maybe, I would say like 4 sacks, right? Where Chicago feels like, oh, at least we didn't give up 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. But Green Bay feels like, we wish we could have got a few more. It's probably somewhere in that 3 to 4 range. But I think this is going to go a long way in deciding who has a leg up. Is it the Packers defensive front, which has struggled mightily, but goes against a terrible Bears offensive line? Or is it a terrible Bears offensive line going against a Packers defensive line that has struggled mightily? It's like I said, it's the movable force versus the destructible object. We're going to find out which one is worse and which one can ultimately come up on top. But this would be huge for Green Bay if they could get off on the right foot on the second half of the season with getting those pressures and sacks against the Chicago offensive line. And of course, would go a long way in helping you win this game as well. Next up, and it sort of is in the same vein, is don't let Caleb Williams get into any sort of rhythm. In his last 3 games, he is 48 of 95, completing 50.5% of his passes, under 51%. That is abysmal on any possible imaginable level in the modern NFL. Because you know that, like, if you watch, there's a lot of really simple stuff that has been baked into that offense to get him some simple throws. Completing only about 50% of his passes is nightmare fuel. It is a really, really bad sign. He has 468 yards in those 3 games, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and has taken 18 sacks, partially due to the offensive line and the injuries, partially due to Caleb Williams taking too many sacks. If you average that out over the last 3 games, that would be 16 of 31 per game, 156 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, and 6 sacks. That's his average game over the last 3 weeks. It's been brutal, absolutely brutal. So what I don't want to see from Green Bay, quite frankly, is letting him get into a rhythm early in this game, letting him get confidence, letting the Bears offense be like, hey, maybe this Thomas Brown offense does work a little bit better. I don't want to hear any of it. I want Green Bay's defense to go out and shut this down early and often, because there are fatal flaws within this Chicago team offensively. They've got a rookie quarterback that holds the ball too long, that doesn't get out the ball out in rhythm. That offensive line is bad. They're beat up. They're not able to protect for as long as Caleb Williams would like them to protect for. The wide receivers and weapons are getting frustrated and giving up on plays, and you can see it on their with their body language. It's just all bad right now. So do not give them hope. Do not let them have rhythm. Do not let them feel like, hey, we can beat this Packers defense. This is, to me, one I want to see Green Bay's defense ball out early on and not give them those signs of life. And if they do that, this team is willing to sort of quit and just be like, this season's done. Get me out of here. It's ready to go in that direction. You just need to, kick that pebble down the hill a little bit, and it's going to spiral into this huge boulder that is unstoppable and is probably going to lead to the entire destruction of the franchise. So just keep that boulder going. Keep that pebble going. Let's get it to a boulder. That's what Green Bay's job should be this weekend. Number 3, from a Green Bay standpoint, we've talked about how the bye came at the right time to get Green Bay healthy. But anytime there's a bye, there can be rest, but there can also be rust. It's lame, it's cliche, but it's true. And what I don't want to see from Green Bay is that slow start for all the reasons that we just mentioned. I don't want to give Chicago hope. So for Green Bay, I'm hoping that they had a great week of practice. I'm hoping that they're raring to go and ready to get out there and immediately start playing really good football, because the worst thing that can happen is that Chicago gets out to that quick lead and feels comfortable in the game. Do not let them be comfortable. Make them extremely uncomfortable. Any sort of deficit early is going to make them extremely uncomfortable, because it's going to be the, oh, here we go again, sort of mindset. So I want to see from Green Bay, coming off the bye week, rested and rejuvenated, not rusty and not able to get in any sort of rhythm. So I think that's going to play a huge part in this game. Number 4, I'm going to actually come back to what I have in my list at number 4 on the end a little bit here. And I'm going to go with the field position battle and special teams. I do think that there's a formula for Chicago, right? And what I mean by that is their formula through the decades, right, has been, hey, we don't have good quarterback play, but we can play great defense, we can play great special teams, and we can manage the game on offense. And if I had to guess, with a new offensive coordinator, this is going to be the plan. We're going to have a ball control offense for Chicago, not try to do too much with Caleb Williams, run the football, give him some easy throws. It's not going to be perfect. We're going to try to get 17, 20 points on the board offensively And in the meantime, play great defense and win the field position battle. You've got two really good punters in Torrey Taylor for Chicago and Daniel Whalen for Green Bay that have the ability to flip that field position. And I think those hidden yards could play a huge factor in this. So that's another one that I'm looking for. It is a epic punter battle. Also, you don't want to leave points on the field, right? If you're Brandon McManus, go make your field goals. And I think any sort of missed field goals, block field goals, missed extra points, anything like that could also play a huge factor in this one. So to me, the field position battle and special teams definitely going to play a role in this game. Number 5, how do you want to attack this Bears secondary? Really good corners. And you've got Tyreek Stevenson, you've got Kyler Gordon, you've got Jalen Johnson, of course. They're still very, very good, young, talented at corner. The safeties, not so much, with Jaquan Brisker being out. Kevin Byard is having a little bit of a resurgence this season. You have him still, but it's not great on the back end. So I'm wondering do you want to target their linebackers and safeties more in coverage, or are you feeling comfortable that you can go after their corners? Either way, I think you want to be careful. Not too careful, not too cautious, not, again, to the point of you're not playing within rhythm, but they have good corners that can take away the football. That's what you really need to avoid for Green Bay. So I think you have to have a plan to attack the secondary. Remember, Mike Walls said they're apt to tip their hand a little bit to see if they're going to be in cover 2 or cover 1. And if you can get those tells, Matt LaFleur's going to know how to take advantage of that, get Jordan Love in the offense in advantageous looks, and make sure that they're prepared for those opportunities. I'm intrigued to see how the Packers passing offense in particular attacks this Bears defense. I do think there's holes, but I think it might be a little bit more linebacker and safety than maybe at corner. Number 6, Josh Jacobs versus DeAndre Swift, which of course is one of these that they're never going to be on the field at the same time. They're not actually going against each other, but I want to see which running game gets going first. You want to take some of the load off of Caleb Williams, get the running game going. You want to make it so that Jordan doesn't feel like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders and can just go out and make those easy passes. Get your running game going. And we know Chicago, I don't know if the weather is supposed to be windy or what it might be, but usually it is. And sometimes it's not always the greatest, field conditions for passing the ball. Get that run game started. And that's, again, going to be another one of these keys for Green Bay as the remainder of the season goes along. Josh Jacobs should remain a focal point of this offense, even with a 1,000,000,000% healthy Jordan Love and ready to go and playing great. Josh Jacobs still should be a major weapon in this offense, consistently utilized. So I want to see, is it Swift and Roschon Johnson in that Bears rushing attack, or is it Josh Jacobs that gets going quicker? And again, I think that's another one where if you're looking for signs early, see which running game is doing better, early on and often for whoever it is, whether it is Swift or whether it is Jacobs or one of the backups as well. Number 7, what's your plan for DJ Moore? Is it Jair Alexander? Is Jair Alexander even playing in this game? And if Jair Alexander is not playing in this game, what is your plan for DJ Moore? I'm telling you, I need to see more Carrington Valentine in that situation. Eric Stokes versus DJ Moore is not a matchup that you want. I think you're going to need to play that safety over the top. And I'm interested to see what they do. They're going to move DJ Moore around. They're going to try to get him the ball with, maybe even in the backfield and let him do the heavy lifting after the catch. There's a variety and a plethora of ways that you can use DJ Moore. And it's not easy just to say, we're going to put Jair on him on the outside. Well, what if he goes in the slot? What if he motions left? Where are you going with it then? So I'm very interested to see how Chicago utilizes DJ Moore and then how Green Bay counters that. And is Jair, Alexander active in this game, and how much can you get Jair actually on DJ Moore? Number 8, this one kind of goes without saying, but just the red zone efficiency. It's been really, really bad for Green Bay. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL in red zone efficiency. That's something that they have to improve upon. If you want, again, a recipe for giving Chicago hope, it's having these long drives that go down, get in Chicago territory, and you're settling for field goals. They're just going to hang around and hang around and hang around, and you don't want them to hang around. You want this to be a 31-0 game. That's how bad they're playing. It's not going to be that way, but that's what you want. So I want to see Green Bay get off to that fast start and then get in the, in the end zone when you actually get in the red zone. Can't just be big plays. You're going to have to grind it out. You're going to have to find a way to be better down there. But this is a game where Green Bay has to be better in the red zone. Number 9, just beware those unscouted looks. The Bears do have a new offensive coordinator, so they're probably going to throw some things at Green Bay that they haven't seen. Just be prepared for it. Don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I don't think it's going to be anything. It's like, oh my goodness, they're running the, wing T offense or something. But just be aware of what they may pull out and just know your keys, know your assignments, and make sure that you're doing your job. Because again, you don't know what you're going to get on any given play. Number 10, the fast start, the first quarter. Do not give them hope. Do not give Chicago hope. And I think if Chicago goes out and plays well and gets a lead, they're going to feel very comfortable in this game. And we've talked about this a little bit, but from a Green Bay standpoint, if you're up 10-0 at the end of one, man, the crowd's going to start turning. Some of the players are going to start getting antsy again, and that's where you want them. So get that early lead, come out strong after the bye, be ready to go. And I want to see Green Bay up ideally double digits going into the second quarter. 10-0's good. That's all I'm asking for there. But I want to see Green Bay get off to that fast start. I don't really care if they receive the ball or not. If they kick, I want to see them get the ball back immediately. Green Bay go down, score points. But I want that first quarter to be a win for Green Bay and not one where Chicago's like, oh, look, it's 0-0 or it's 7-0 us. And they feel extremely confident going into the second quarter. That is not what you want out of this one. Number 11, are the Bears even still good enough to play good enough football to win this game? That's where it comes down to. They're playing so poorly, especially in offense. I know the new offensive coordinator, everything like that, but it was so bad that it's hard to imagine how it gets any significant level of better enough where, like, yep, now we can beat Green Bay a week later after looking like we were a JV team against New England a week ago. I just don't even know the answer. I don't know if Chicago can put that type of game together. And we'll end with this, number 12. To me, this is, I love going over all these individual matchups and fun things to watch for. If you want to know what affects the outcome of the game, you can throw all the stuff away that we just talked about, every single ounce of it. What this comes down to is how good does Green Bay play themselves in this game? They do not need an A+ game to beat Chicago. They don't need an A game to beat Chicago. They just need a solid B to B+. If Green Bay plays a solid B to B+ game against Chicago, they win, and they probably win easily. It's as simple as that. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. I don't care if you said Chicago played their best game of the season and Green Bay played B-level football. I got Green Bay by 3-6 in that situation, maybe 1-6, but I still have Green Bay winning. The only avenue for a Bears win in this game is if Green Bay beats themselves to some extent. The drops, the penalties, the interceptions, all of it. That's what Green Bay has to clear up. If I were a bar, I would be giving out free shots. Everyone, somebody on the TV said self-inflicted wounds or something of the like at this point. It has to be a situation where Green Bay takes it. I don't want to say takes it more seriously, but it's like some of the stuff, it feels like they're an unserious team up to this point. Hang on to the ball. Convert those into touchdowns. Don't throw pick sixes. The penalties have to stop. Like, just all of it. All the stuff that haunts you at the end of a game. That's where Green Bay just can't give a team like this hope. So as much as the individual matchups are fun and the different matchups between certain players and who gets this started first and all of that and rivalry week and everything, throw it all out the freaking window. Like, Green Bay, go play a good game, play a solid B+ level of football. You win this probably by 6, 7, 8, 9 points. I really, truly believe that. So this to me is not necessarily about those individual matchups or what Chicago's doing. Green Bay just needs to have a business trip, go take care of business, and then, enjoy the victory Monday after that. My prediction in this one, Packers 26, Bears 13. Reminder, I will be doing live pre and post game shows immediately before and following the game, 11 a.m. to noon Central Time, pregame show. And then as soon as the game is done, I'll be on YouTube again doing the live post game show. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, give those 5-star reviews, tell your friends about the episodes and the shows and the live things and everything like that. Appreciate you guys spreading the word. Interact with the video on YouTube as much as you can. That always helps the algorithm. And then check out those Pack a Day Podcast YouTube memberships as well. Speaking of which, shout out to our All-Pro and Hall of Fame members, Most Hated Minnesotan, PJ Wynn, John Wild, Brandon Paletta, Jennifer Wright, Boom Handle, Donald Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, David McCluskey, Donald Decker, Alex Swanger, Loldo Espinoza, Peter Ritaka, SoCal Pack, Jay Zimmerman, B. Brown, Love and Football, Puerto Rican Packer, and Dan Gesford. I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully for Victory Monday. I'm looking forward to this one. Again, did I say my prediction? Packers 26, Bears 13. I think I said it, but I don't know. It's like almost 3 a.m. here as I'm recording this. So give me a little bit of accident forgiveness if I didn't. But I'm going Packers 26, Bears 13. I will see you guys soon for Victory Monday. But until next time, and as always, actually, I will see you soon on the pre and post game show. And then after that, Victory Monday. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.